Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how CEOs, founders, and senior executives sell their ideas, point of view, and personal brand to the people who matter most. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want to build market eminence, amplify your influence, and attract high-value prospects, investors, partners, talent, and media opportunities with less chasing and more confidence. Let's go. Personal branding, market eminence, being the go-to expert, blah, 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 blah. Everyone thinks that all of that starts on the outside. What you do, what you say, what's on your website, what's on your LinkedIn. I have a fantastic guest. She's going to straighten y'all out on all of this. Ushi Patel, welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Thank you.
So before we straighten out these poor listeners about what's really going on with their personal brand and their executive presence and all of these things, would you be wonderful enough to share your professional journey that brought you to the work that you're doing today, and what were some interesting pit stops along the way?
Oh, yeah, sure. You have like 5 hours to
unlimited time. Unlimited time.
Unlimited.
Take it away.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the gist of it is, I grew up in a very beautiful multicultural family, and I am of Indian heritage and descent. And my great grandfather went to South Africa on my paternal side, and on my maternal side, Central Africa. And I was the firstborn here. And the reason I bring that up first is because we all, whether you have that similar cultural influence in your life, we all have these identities and cultural influences that we are reconciling every day. So for me, what that turned into was really having a personal presence and a career trajectory and a life that was based on what other people wanted me to do. And I was successful, and I got all the awards, and the income looked great. But at some point in my life, after all the right degrees and all the right opening of businesses and doing extremely well for corporate people, I was never within the corporate realm, but I always worked for some of these larger corporations and investors. I started to not recognize myself. I was really good at showing up. I was really good at being a robot, so to speak. And it all culminated in a moment where I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. What I want to do is I want to be of benefit to the world. What I want to have is a lot of joy in my life. What I want is something that resembles me in the marketplace. And ironically, I had already had a method of branding that did that for other people and other companies, but I decided now it's time to do it on myself. So that's the genesis, is that it was my way of piecing myself back together. And as I started to share it with clients and companies, the sort of what you speak about in terms of market eminence, they started to realize it, because it was an inside out job, as you said. And I started realizing it. And some of the specifics of what that looked like is like showing up and not having to chase clients, or really a coffee conversation or an event at like a philanthropic event or something, always talking to the right person. How did I get connected to that right person? So there was no longer a chase. It was more a resonance and magnetism that I was able to achieve for companies, individuals, myself. And so that's when I really started to formalize it into what I call the Seeing Me method, and it being sort of my thing, so to speak.
I love that. And I'd love to dig into that and have you sort of lay that out for us. But just based on what you said, I want to pick up on the last thing that yes. I think a lot of folks that are looking to build a personal brand or looking to rise above the noise, they really don't give this enough credit. And I'm going to call it status. And status is some combination of self-worth and self-respect and the identity that you come to the marketplace with. So for example, leaving behind the chasing, the persuading, the convincing, begging clients to work with you, feeling needy, feeling desperate, the moment that you have this internal transformation and you say, that's not who I am, I'm going to come into the marketplace with, and there's a difference between status and self-worth versus arrogance. So I'm not saying that we need to be arrogant, but talk to us about that. I want to say nobility. I mean, it's a weird word to come out of my mouth, but I want to say it's this sense of self-composure, nobility, realizing that you are in the world as a generous, giving, valuable person with generous, helpful, relevant advice, and knowing that the right people will come to you. Help me out here. What am I talking about? What's your response to all of that?
Well, beautiful question. And what I find is actually most of the people that come to me think self-promotion or branding is actually quite icky. And it's the thing that stops some of the greatest brilliant minds of our world who have these repeatable systems and methods that can actually help people. They shy away. And it's like, then somebody says, well, go be confident. But it's not a lack of confidence. It's in the way. It's how you see yourself. And you use this word identity. And that's what I think identity is that if you see yourself as vital to another person, then how you show up, you start to talk with strength, and conviction. And you might have a choice between two things to do in a day. And you realize, I'm going to do that one because I can see how it's going to land for somebody. So that's all influenced by your identity, right? And I think what ends up happening is people who are really good at what you and I do, like the marketing and the ability to message in the market and put ourselves out there, like that's, somewhat come naturally throughout my life. That then what happens is people who have made that into a tactic or a blueprint or a formula, the ones who know how to do that get the gigs. And for a long time, I saw that in myself too, is that as I wasn't connected to my own identity, I was connected to this identity that other people wanted for me. And it's, again, not malicious. They're also reconciling their own identities, right? So as I started to reconcile my own identity and feel like a wobble, I wasn't standing tall. I wasn't telling people like, yes, I can solve your problem when I absolutely could. Yeah. I would do it in some situations. And again, I had a lot of outward success, but you said the key thing was, were they the right people sitting across from me? Not always. Right. And did I have to do a lot of over explaining? And did I have to almost, was I living in an apologetic stance? Totally. And I think some of the most brilliant minds do that, where it's like, okay, now I have to go put myself out there in order to have more impact. And I always say, no, I want you to be more of yourself. And when you are more of yourself, that right person looks at you and goes, that person has something to say. They say it in a genuine way. They use all of their jokes and things like it feels comfortable to be in their presence, because no amount of right tactic will make up for that, and I see it all the time, spinning. I'm following this formula. I'm following this blueprint. It's not working. It feels awkward. I don't want to be in social media. And the first thing I say to people is then don't. There's a lot of people who make a lot of great money and impact, not in social media. And it's because of the way that they cultivate relationships. But you not showing up as you, and there's any point of diminishment, people can feel it because they feel before they see or listen, right?
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. If they can feel, they might not be able to name it, they'll feel your wobble. And that's what ends up happening to, you're calling them thought leaders. I always say that no real good thought leader wants to call themselves a thought leader because that's not what they set out to do. What they set out to do, right? They set out to make a difference and to share their knowledge. But then we're all trying to lump them into the thought leader target audience.
Yes. And of course, when everyone's a thought leader, then no one's a thought leader.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
When everyone has a Chat GPT generated book, then what good is having a book?
Yes.
Or a crappy book. I should say a crappy book, because you write excellent, amazing human-generated books. I like to think I write excellent, amazing human-generated books, but there's so much noise in the marketplace now. I think that the human element, which is what you specialize in, and showing up completely authentic, completely aligned, completely firm without that wobble, but being, filled with certainty and filled with generosity and filled with direction. So let's talk about the Seeing Me method. If you and I were to meet in a coffee shop and you're talking about your the way that you work with clients or what's in this amazing new book that we'll also mention here in a moment. What are the foundational building blocks of this Seeing Me method?
Yeah, so this all started because I do a fair amount of agency work. So people come for all the creative, right? The logos, my look and feel in the media, my website, what I'm dressed like, all of the sort of external factors that typically lead to brand recognition. And I always ask people there's a couple of questions that I need them to answer before I'll do agency work with them. One is, what is the positive future you envision for yourself and others? The next is, well, why are you the person to lead people there, and why now? And if that's the case, do you feel that you're aligned in that message and in that presence? And the most like sort of, oh, I know that I've done all these things. They can't answer those questions. So then I say, well, then don't spend money here. You're going to, light your money on fire, because I need to know why now. And I need to understand, what is it that you see? And when you speak about the humanity of all of this, the single source of humanity really is your lived experience. And people lead with the what you do, they lead with the skills, but that has no differentiation, right? If there's one surgeon in one city that's really good, there's probably another surgeon in another city that's really good. So why you? Why now? And what makes you different? Can't answer that. You got to go into the Seeing Me method. And I think that some people have a level of frustration because they're like, well, I have a deadline next week. And I'm like, well, that's great. It doesn't make a difference to me, because I need to know who you are. So there's 3 steps. The first step is you're finding your golden thread. The second step is you're making space for the emergent. And the third step, and only if you do the first 2, do you get to shape an authentic presence in the marketplace. And for everybody, that looks different depending on the first 2 steps. So the first one of the golden thread is really about, everybody has, some people call it essence. I call it developing your North Star. I call it the constant in you. There's something that has been part of your world that you've been showing up as, probably since you were a kid. You can find it in how people speak about you. It is the thing that only you can offer. And it is at an intersection of your talents and your skills, your lived experience, the actual imprint that you're making. And I have an exercise called the Book of Me, where they can distill their golden thread. Then they go in to make space for the emergent. And this is like all came from my way of creative briefing at the front end of design projects. And what I mean by emergent is, we don't know what we don't know. Like, again, we're a product of everybody else's opinions and judgments and what we chose to let land in us. So how do you know what belongs to you? So you could just get so stuck with your blinders on. And so the second step really makes an opening for the possibilities. And I do that purely visually. So what's fun about that is that we do this thing called the Seeing Me board. We can go into how it's different from a vision board, but it's really like, I ask you, like, who are you in a cocktail? Who are you in a wine label and a chocolate label? And we start to see the metaphors that are emerging. And there's always like a connect the dot moment where somebody says, oh, that's so me, and I want to go there. And then we take all of that juice from the first 2 steps, and that's when we start to give words to it. This is the positive future that I envision for myself and others. This is how I'm going to take up space in the market. This is the adjectives and the characteristics and the metaphors that are meaningful to me. And what starts to happen, I've just said a lot in terms of the steps. What I want everyone to know is that even if they're not visually minded, even if they're not designery in their head, this design framework that once is probably like any agency listening would be like, oh yeah, that's our creative briefing process. It's really about using that briefing process on oneself to make a North Star. So when you have that North Star, everything that we build from there on out has alignment. Every touch point feels consistent and it builds trust. So that's why no one passes go unless they do those first two, what can feel like a bit personal development kind of steps. But the long term is really great business results. The long term is effective use of your resources and your investments, like clients and people. That recognition point is so much easier to stand in who you are and have somebody already convinced before you even get on a client call that they want you, versus going through the presentation and the right? So those are that's the very massive overview of the method. Yeah.
Hey now, what a great episode, right? Are you ready to build your own Market Eminence game plan using the power of speaking, publishing, and podcasting? Book a chat with me to build your plan and see if and how I might help you further. The link is doitmarketing.com/call. No sales team, no pressure, no goofballs, just you and me having a CEO to CEO chat about what's possible for you and your company. Hop on with me, doitmarketing.com/call. And now, let's jump right back into the interview. Not to slam traditional branding agencies, but my personal experience, and maybe yours also, people have shown up at my doorstep and they say, I hired a branding agency a couple years ago, and they're retelling me this story. And half the time, literally, they're either getting choked up or they're in tears, because they said, from the beginning, it didn't feel right. They were putting things on me. They were saying that this is your brand, this is your messaging, this is how you're different. And it never felt right, and it never felt like me. Right. And I'm going to say that's probably, especially for people who are the face and the voice of their brand, right? We're not talking about packaging soap. We're talking about people. We're talking about professional services firms. We're talking about folks who are leading expertise-driven businesses. And the fact that you said, do not pass go, do not collect $200 unless we do this personal development-y work, and I wouldn't even call it personal development-y. I know that you were using that as a nickname, but that is so critical that if the brand and the messaging and the tactics and the tools and the market-facing assets do not feel like you, do not feel like who you are and what you believe in and what you stand for and what you're living your life and what you're running your business towards, you have been, I would say you've been a victim of branding agency malpractice. That they did it to you instead of doing it with you or doing it for you. I guess the question is, why is that so prevalent? Why are people so willing to abdicate? Oh, I guess the branding agency knows more than I do about who I am in the world.
Yeah, well, that's just it. Because we've been doing it since we were kids. Right. It's really easy. Like even to this day, like I love to be like, okay, I'm the perfect model here. I don't have, what I have is a method that I can go back to and I do every day. So as an example, sometimes people are like, oh, like you're so confident. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I go back to my North Star every day. I mean, like I'll be on a panel or I'll be about to get on stage and the person that goes before you is like this incredible speaker. Yeah. So I have to go back and look at these tools for my own self so that I can come back to who I am. Right. Yeah. So I just think that not making choices against who you are is so insidious in our culture and in our way of being. That's number one. Yeah. I think a lot of brand agencies really think that they are doing a service because in the whole traditional consultancy model, it's like, well, I am hiring you for your insight. Yeah. And what I say to people is like, oh, I got plenty of insight for you. It's not that I don't, but I don't want to just give you a blanket statement that I think might work. I really want to tailor that insight and that that tool to what you're trying to achieve, right? And I mean, we could go on and on about transactional. I think it works. I think that if you like with certainty give somebody a proposal and say, this is going to make you money in this amount of time, or this is going to get you that notoriety that you want in this amount of time, of course you're going to be like, awesome, that's what I want. Right.
Yeah.
So I think the combo of our own uncertainty around what we know, as you said, the instincts that we have and the impulses we have, which by the way, get heightened through the Seeing Me method, because you start to trust your North Star more and more. And then you start to get examples of when you didn't trust your North Star and you're like, that one hurts,
Yes.
whatever it is, it's so much of what happened to me was what I call the magical breakups. They were painful at the time, but there was a business one and a personal one that happened. But that's what gave me that self-confrontation to say, wow, look at all these places. I chose somebody else's certainty, somebody else's opinion over what I know to be true for myself. Then once you're in alignment, of course, talk to the strategist. Of course, take a look at the tactics, but you'll find your tactic mix might be much different than yours, David, right?
Yes.
We're in the same world, but our tactics might be completely misaligned if we're not careful, if we're not,
Yes.
It's not even careful if we're not aligned.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. I want to go back to your exercise around the chocolate label. And so my wife and I have this sort of ongoing running joke, whether it's a label on a coffee or chocolate or wine, but it's always one of those three. And so we were in a coffee shop and they had like one of these big 3-pound bags of that was their roast of the day, but they wanted to put the bag out on the counter to show people that's the roast of the day. And it had 3 big adjectives on the bag. And it was big, bold, fruity. When it comes to coffee, big, bold, fruity. And I turn to my wife and I say, honey, look, they're carrying my brand of coffee because I consider myself big, bold, and fruity. And so it's that's such a great exercise. It's well, what's the wine label? What's the chocolate bar label? What would be, what are the 3 characteristics of your brand of coffee? And so I am unashamedly big, bold, and fruity. Ushi, you also do this with teams. And I want to talk a little bit about, for the folks that are listening that might work inside of an organization, I totally understand how this works with an individual agency owner, consultancy owner, law firm owner, etc., law firm principal, managing partner. I'm working in Google. I'm working in IBM. I'm working in ExxonMobil, right? And again, it's wrong-headed, but they buy things like executive presence. Executive presence, quote unquote, to me reeks of outside in, right? Let's fix the outside, and then the inside can still be a hot disaster. Tell me how this is received in the corporate context.
Yeah, again, I was surprised by the corporate context of it. Now, I went off and started being me, and the invitations I received were very much aligned with that. It wasn't like I had a funnel. It was me sitting at an event and somebody talking much like this, where that person happened to be a team lead at one of the biggest companies in the world. And I think all companies and corporations, so a lot of people think Ushi's going to be the lady that comes in and they're all going to get aligned and leave the company because they hate, the culture that they're in. But that's not what it's about. It's there are people who are made to contribute in that environment, and there are people who are made to go do their own thing.
Yeah.
And knowing which one you are will, by the way, help down the road. Both are tough journeys. I'm never going to say that it's smooth sailing from here on out. Alignment does create a sense of ease and knowing, but you still have a journey ahead of you. Okay. So that's one thing. But people, corporations, these big, they're all made of people. So a team is a people. And if you have a bunch of people who are trying to exert external force, that's when all this mess occurs, right? If you have teams that are aligned to why them, why now, if they can self-recognize, if they can acknowledge their life, if they can understand what makes them unique, they don't need to compete. They don't need to fight with others. And all of a sudden you start to have this team harmony, this creativity that emerges. I think some people use that word innovation. I love that word too. I think it's overused, but that's what starts to happen, is that you unleash this imagination because the people feel free to be imaginative. And, it's funny. We keep bringing up the agency. I cannot tell you how many creatives I talk to who they are the idea people. They are the thing that these big corporations need. But in the name of timelines, they're shut. We need space. People need space. So as soon as you start giving a really talented creative person some space, watch what comes out of them. So that's what started happening, is that very naturally the team leader would work on it. They would be like, wow, Ushi, I love this for myself. Let's do it for the team. I would do it on an individual level for the team and do like a team reveal. And by the way, if you think a misaligned team's good for your brand, it's not. People feel it, right? So it had all these business results very naturally for the leaders I was working with. And so again, they were like, okay, we want results. And so that's how it started to proliferate, so to speak, in a more organizational setting. But I always work with the leader first, because I think that that sounds cliche, but if you're not going to do it, don't expect your people to do it. It's just silly.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And how long does that take in a corporate setting? Are you in there for like 6 months, 90 days? What's the typical engagement?
Okay, so the initial can happen in 2 or 3 meetings. I think the thing that takes the longest afterwards is that, okay, great, I have all this clarity now. I have my everyday life and my everyday interaction. So then there's the follow-up work that can actually last forever, because this is the fundamental piece, is that humans are iterative. Our cells are iterative. Every time something happens and we walk out the door, we fundamentally change. Okay. The weather is different. We make a different choice. And what can happen in branding and in business, or there's all these in organizations, there's all these fixed formulas to deal with an ever evolving thing.
Yeah.
So we can solve a lot up front, and we have to deal with the ever evolving aspect of your team, your organization. People come, people go. That has impact. People become moms. Like, this is the thing, is like, we want people to turn their humanity off because you're in a corporation. And on the other side, I tell people like, okay, so I'm not telling you, oh, now I'm going to wear my lavender yoga pants to the boardroom because this is who I am. Like, that also doesn't work. It's who are you within this context? And that's why a designer's frame of mind works so well. You get to design your every moment, every context. Yeah. On the individual level, on the leader level, then as your team starts doing it, people start to take notice.
Wait. We're not just going to listen to this episode. There are downloads, there are resources, there are links, there are bonuses waiting for you on this episode's page when you go over to doitmarketing.com/podcast. That's right, doitmarketing.com/podcast. Grab the notes right under this episode. See you over there. Tell me about your fantastic new book that's coming out. What's the title, and what will we find in those incredible pages?
Yeah, it's called Dare to Design the Real You, a designer's guide to reimagining your identity and your future. And for a long time, you're going to be the first person that says, like, why are you the best kept secret? And a lot of it was because I was very overprotective of my method and the integrity of my method, and not wanting it to just sort of, be out there in the world and not usable to people, because it does take in a certain amount of depth. And so then what I did was I said, no, I think people can really benefit from my story, and they can benefit from knowing the method and doing some of the basic foundational exercises on their own. And then at the point at which not everybody's going to read it and want to build a brand, some people will read it and show up differently. Awesome. Right? Lots of people use my method and find their husbands or wives or partners, right? Because again, you're drawing in what you most want. You're clear about what you're trying to, you're the designer of what's coming in. So if you're visual or not, it can help you. If you're actually a designer or creative, it can actually help you become a better designer or creative. And many people had said, you gotta share your story. And I just felt like this is the time. There's so many, I feel like this is the time. Like, we have AI here. It's not going anywhere. It's creating a lot of noise. I'm actually a proponent of AI, but you got to know how to put yourself in the AI in order to differentiate. And I think people want to be who they are. I think we're done with the having to wear the mask, So that's the book. And it has far-reaching implications, whether you decide to use it in a business setting or not. I think it can really make a difference in people's lives. And I've seen it. That's what happened. I kept seeing people's personal lives get better. And I said, okay, the book is the best channel for it to touch a broader group of people. Yeah.
So good. So good. I'm curious, and we don't really, we've had one or two guests talk about AI, this and that, but this application to me is fascinating. When you say people need to learn how to put themselves into the AI, give a couple examples of what advice would you have for people that are using Claude or ChatGPT or any of these different tools that are out there now?
So step 3 of the See Me method is shaping your presence. Part of what we do is we create these things that I say, these things like rendering me statements. Part of the artist render is words, right? I talk so much about visuals, but words are visual. And if you can start to, in a very nuanced way, paint the picture of who you are, this is things like a bio, a set of value statements, a really clear statement of where you're leading people towards. And then you put those rendering me statements into whatever AI tool you're using, you start to train the AI in your voice and in your nuances. Where AI is right now, it's freaking lazy and it's annoying. And I argue with it all the time. Like, you miss this nuance, you miss this nuance. But over time, right? But over time, what somebody who doesn't feel like a good writer could do, what somebody who feels like they don't have the precision that I might have when I'm working with them, you start to train it with these rendering me statements. And we do that for people but again, you do not pass go and you do not go there until what I'm training it in is actually you, not somebody else that you're emulating or mimicking. Again, not because you're just like this, copycat. It's because you naturally think, oh, I'm going to go mimic the person who's doing it well. Yeah, but that's because they're doing well by themselves. I had this amazing, you'll really appreciate this. I had this woman come in and she's like a psychotherapist. She's incredible methodology, incredible, generous heart. And she watched Shark Tank, which is like the kiss of death, because I love Shark Tank, by the way. But like, she goes, oh, I saw this 22-year-old girl put this dating app and she made millions and I want to be like her. So she starts mimicking the 22-year-old girl. And I said, did you ever think that 22-year-old girl actually likes being the content creator she is around this subject? She actually likes being the app builder. It's who she is. It's her passion. And I just remembered the silence where she was like, oh. And so, of course, like, you're doing everything she's doing and it sounds like the right thing and it sounds like you're doing a good job, but you're doing her version of success. You're doing her version. I'm not saying you can't learn from her, but first learn you, and then now go look at what she's doing and put your stamp on that, and you'll watch how you fly, right? That's what the opportunity is here. Yeah.
So good. And it's such a tempting trap that you're saving people from. Really amazing. Well, as we're landing the plane, I know that people are going to want to get connected and stay connected to more Ushi Patel brilliance. Where can we send people? What links should go into the show notes?
Yes, I'd love for you to come to ushi-inc.com. If that felt like a lot to hear, Ushi Patel, you'll look me up, you'll come to my website, you'll be able to see how to get the book, you'll see if you need additional support. I have a self-led and I have a one-on-one process after the book, for those of you who are formalizing it into a brand. And look me up on LinkedIn. I like hooking up with people on LinkedIn a lot too, because I get to see what you're about. One of the things that we do is obviously up-level your LinkedIn presence. So shoot me a note on LinkedIn. I always answer it. And I would love to hear from you. I'd love to support you in shaping your authentic presence. A platform, I always say that your brand is actually an asset. And it is something you can leverage for the rest of your life for influence, income, whatever that looks like to you, but you can leverage it. So you've got a brand, whether you think you have one or not, and you might as well make it authentic. Authentic's overused too, David. But you might as well make it the real you, hence the invitation. Dare to design the real you.
That's it. And from you and I, from our previous conversations, from all of your amazing testimonials that are on your website, the thing that strikes me the most, the real power that gets unleashed here, is around alignment and ease and comfort in your own skin, and really owning your expertise, owning that distinction, owning that positioning in the marketplace with no more fear, no more wobble. I love that term that you have, wobble. No more fear, no more wobble, no more, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing it with the right people? Am I doing it at the right fee level? Am I taking on the right projects? Am I on the right stage? It's like, no, you know because you've done the work. And the sense of ease and certainty and confidence is really a lifelong asset. It's not just, hey, for 6 months, I'll feel great. It will change the trajectory of your life and your business.
Absolutely. And this is the thing about the book, is that I want you to have a North Star. You need something to come back to, because guess what? You're going to go into a meeting and someone's going to reject you. So how do you come back after that, right? I walk in, I'm so certain, I know this is going to help a person, and they look at you like you're like kooky. And that happens to me all the time, because like I'm not a traditional, kind of method. And then I think there's sometimes that does create wobble, and then you got to come back. Why is that creating wobble? Yeah. That's the key. The key is that you can have the certainty, you can have the knowing if you have the tool. The North Star. If you have that, then you can keep coming back through the ebbs and flows of life. You can, that's how I stay steady. Cause I would love to tell you I'm that all the time. No, I'm not, but what I do know is that set of tools, very simple. I have people interview, those that they have impacted in their life. It's the most uncomfortable exercise ever. I don't even say interview, they talk to them, and they have to receive, they actually have to receive the acknowledgement. And everyone is like, you could see it, I'm squirming. Oh my God, do they really want to talk to me? If you can receive the influence and the imprint that you've made on others, I pop it in my phone. And so the first second of wobble, I grab it and I come back to my North Star. So that's the point I want to leave everybody with. You got to keep coming. You have to know what brings you back home to you. And then the tactics will start working.
Amazing. Ushi Patel, you're a rock star, and I appreciate you. Thank you for all these wisdom bombs.
Yes, and likewise, so fun. What did you say you were? Bold, yeah, big, bold, and fruity. Big, bold, and fruity. Oh,
that's what I got.
Wonderful. Yes, and that's what you gave. Thank you.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.